All right, everyone, welcome. This is our 6th webinar of the fall season, and this one is covering a very, very important topic. This one's going to be the degree admissions. We're going to focus on our application process, some of the things you should have been thinking about as you apply, and we're going to get an opportunity to hear from both myself and Ashley, and I'll put that on the next slide. But in the meantime, be thinking about some of the questions, jot those down, and if we don't cover them soon, then make sure you put those into the chat section and we'll make sure we cover that. So the presenters today is myself. I'm Catherine Meyer, Director of Admissions and Recruitment here at the Bush School, and then Ashley Treadway, our Assistant Director. She'll be the one that you're directly working with when you apply. She handles all the admissions processing of the applications and helping getting everything in order. So be watching your emails when you're working with Ashley. So the agenda today, we're going to be covering the admissions process and timeline. So I'm going to start with some general, pretty quick slides on some of the things you should have already done with background research, what to consider when applying, what are schools look for those best classes that they're making, application requirements specifically for our degrees, steps and timeline, some advice that we want to give about your statement or letters of rec, what our average statistics look like, financing your studies. That's just one slide because we will cover financial aid in a future webinar, and then making sure that you compare your options so you know what to expect when you enroll in that school and what those costs would be. So I'm going to start with, is now the time for grad school? We get that question a lot. When should I apply? Just remember, this is more about your timeline and when it works for you. So life is all about the experiences you've been gathering, those career goals that you've been put together, and what do you want out of all this life experience? So you start with focusing on what you did for your underground. What was fulfilling? What was your major, the activities? Did you do an internship you liked or heard about someone else who did one that you'd really like to follow up with? Study abroad opportunities. Some people like to do the research, digging in on certain topics and working with faculty. So figure out what really spoke to you, what you want more of, and then think about those intended career fields and start talking to people in those areas. Do some of those phone calls with alumni or ask someone who does that field to reference you for someone and get an idea what they did for their background and their opportunities of grad school and how that prepared them. Because in grad school, you're gaining those additional knowledge, skills, and abilities. You're really filling in the gaps for what you did for undergrad. Find out about that professional training. Is it helpful to get the foot in the door in those internships? Are there certain certificates you need? And then start networking and build on those connections one after another. Keep business cards, exchange your business cards. You might want to order some of those and just really get going in figuring out, making that connection who can recommend you to the next person, especially someone who's in a job later when you're looking for those career opportunities. So really the best time to attend grad school is when you know your focus, and you don't have to have it specific, exact details, but you do need to know the field you're at least wanting to go into. And can you contribute to that class dynamic? What do you bring to the table? Work experience, just anything that you know your fellow classmates can learn from you and that the faculty will value, whether they be books you've read and travel you've done, but more importantly, those life experiences with jobs and internships. So if you found the right place, if you're interested in any of these areas, so our degrees are a Master of Public Service, Master of International Affairs is the primary ones, but they cover all of these topics in some capacity. So you can take courses with us and then combine them out of other departments. And there's a lot of different ways. So no two people in the same area here in admissions and then into those degree plans have to look the same. So just know that interdisciplinary fields, you can prepare for a variety of career paths from nonprofits to science to business to social entrepreneurship, energy and the environment, and on and on and on. So public service jobs, there's all different kinds of skills you're getting into. That's analysts, coordinators, consultants, developers, investigators. Just make sure that the career path you're heading to, does the degree you're applying to get you in those doors? So be looking at the career service pages and make sure that you're seeing some of those employers who are hiring our students. Research your options. So there's professional organization websites. If you haven't already looked at two of these in particular that I'm going to mention, you may want to jot these down. So uniquely, I'm talking about public service sites, but there is a public administration organizations that we belong to. NASPA, that first one listed, NASPAA.org, does have a search function so that if you're trying to narrow in on which schools and what they offer, and if they're located in Texas, or I'm looking anywhere in the nation or all over the world, there are search functions under a school research about halfway down their page. So definitely utilize that. APAM.org has some information, aspennet.org. In international affairs, if you aren't familiar, APSIA.org is one you really want to know more about, because it lists the top international affairs programs across the nation and world, and we're one of those member organizations. And in addition, they have information for careers and for scholarships and financial aid. So there are a great list of resources on those websites, especially if you know you're looking at these areas of public service or international affairs. Become familiar with guest speakers they may be hosting, events that you can get involved in online, and just get to know a little bit more about what's out there. Nonprofit, we're listing some resources, same with state and federal government, national security and diplomacy, international economics and development. There's more about these websites on our website under careers, but I just want you to be familiar. If you haven't taken the time now to look at some of these organizations, there is helpful information out there to help you prepare. Now, as far as the admissions and preparing for the process, you're ready to apply to the schools, but what are the schools looking for? And in this case, we're looking for aptitude for the field. If someone says they're interested in nonprofits, we're hoping we can go back and see something in their background where they volunteered for organizations, that they're familiar of leadership, that maybe they have coordinated volunteers. Maybe they're familiar with grants and contracts and how to write those for more money. Nonprofits always need that. We're also looking for past academic success. It doesn't mean that everyone who comes in the program is a 4.0, but it is helpful to be above a 3.0. And if you're below it, be sure you're making up for it in some way, through your life experience, through testing, all kinds of ways. Just giving yourself distance between that GPA and the grad degree you're now undertaking. So really focus particularly on your major area, but remember overall we're looking at that cumulative GPA. Have a clear sense of direction. So can't be all over. It just makes sense. I graduated. I don't know what else I'm going to do. I'm going to apply to grad school. Well, you need to know what you're trying to do. An example of this is not too long ago, someone wrote an essay and they said, I'm committed to public service, but it doesn't mention anything about what fields in public service. Is it government service, nonprofits? Do you want to work for emergency management? You've got to give some faculty something that they can grab onto and realize you've done your homework, you've thought about these things, and that you are prepared to undertake a fast track, which is what grad school is. 2 years go so quickly. So you need to have a little bit of a direction in doing this. You also need to have an ability to work with other people. And so any type of communication you can do about collaborating in groups and projects, that's important in grad programs. Recommender support. Just be sure you take your time on finding the right people. We'll talk about this later. And then leadership and involvement. So be more than just making good grades. Be sure that you are talking about the activities you've done, the organizations that you're part of, even leadership positions within those organizations. Because again, faculty want to see a well-rounded student in being able to commit to things. So what makes you competitive? Well, we're looking for any type of those experiences, your contributions, the ability to succeed in the classroom. On your statement of purpose, be sure in your resume as well that you're highlighting your interests. Is it research or is it professional? Look up your professors, look up the professors in the program you're going into. Find out what their past successes in research were and just try to match that up. We're not as heavy on research, but definitely the practical application of, I'm interested in Latin America. I'm interested in state and local government. I want to be a city manager. There's faculty who specifically work with those. So if you can work their names or your interest area into that, those faculty, if they're reading files, they'll grab onto that. Talking about your experiences, it's relevant work, volunteerism, organization, study abroad, internships. We talked about that before. And then don't forget about your abilities and skills. Be sure to build this into that resume. Any of the communication is super important. We even do an interview in our process. Again, talking about collaboration, leadership, initiative. There's a lot of things here that you need to be thinking about. In particular for the MIA, we're also looking at the foreign language ability. It's just a lot of critical thinking and knowing that you're ready to tackle that, because at the grad school level, it's much more intense than you might have seen in undergrad. Our classes often cap at around 20, and you're going to be called on and you're going to be asked to make comments and participate. So there's no hiding in the back of the room and hoping they don't notice you. When you're evaluating grad programs, think also about the courses and specializations that you're doing, the practitioner and research, the professional development. Do they have a capstone, or are they asking for a thesis? Are they going to ask for an internship, speakers and conferences? Is there an opportunity to network? Look at the faculty, their backgrounds, the class ratio. Do they offer any advising? You can sit and talk to them. For the institution or even the school specifically you're applying to, are they accredited? Are they ranked? Where are their alumni placed? And is it a successful, top 80 to 90%? You should be seeing students in fields you're interested in. Does the career service work with you? Do they also, again, help you connect with those alumni? What are those rates 6 months out? At least for APSEA and NASPA, those two groups I talked about earlier, we have to provide that information to them. Who are those employers? Also think about that campus culture. What support systems, class makeup, what's the climate of that area? Location, weather, cost of living, transportation, housing, all of that impacts your study, because if you can't pay the bills, if you're stressed about everyday life, you're not going to be able to focus on your studies. And then ultimately the cost. What are those tuition and fees per year? Is aid granted? What kind of debt are you going to incur? What are the living costs ultimately? So what are the things that matter? Access to activities and program you're interested in that grad program. Are the colleagues and the professors passionate about what they're doing? Or are they just going through the motion and you just feel like you're just getting your degree, but you're not getting help or enthusiasm? They should be contributing and investing their time in you. And then what is the cost in the school program that works with your goals? All right, that was a lot of information. I'm going to pass this off to Ashley, and Ashley's going to specifically go through each one of our degrees and what you are needing to do through that application process. It's all yours, Ashley.
Thanks, Catherine. So just to begin with, we have a couple of different programs that we'll be talking about the admission requirements for today. Just know that some of the programs have overlap in their application requirements, while some do not. I will go through each one briefly, but again, there's details on our website, or you can always reach out to us or ask questions afterwards. But to get started, our two flagship programs are Master of Public Service in Administration, as well as our Master of International Affairs. Application requirements are very similar. So just to begin with, our deadlines for fall 2023 entry, and again, we only admit once per year for fall entry only. Our priority funding deadline is going to be December 15th of this year, and our final hard deadline is January 11th of next year. Sometimes we take late applications if we haven't filled our class. It just depends on the number of applicants we receive in a particular year, and we do not decide if we're going to go ahead and accept late applications until after that final deadline. We'll update our website, we'll update our emails, all of that good stuff. The priority funding deadline, I get a lot of questions about, like, what is that? That is a suggested deadline for you to strive to get all of your application materials and applications submitted by that deadline. There are a few fellowship opportunities that require nominations be made in January. So as long as you can meet that priority funding, you're guaranteed to be considered for all of our funding opportunities. Everyone will still get a scholarship no matter what, even if they apply up to that January 11th deadline. It's just that there's just a few fellowships that require earlier nominations. The final deadline is a hard deadline, meaning if you're missing a recommendation or you're missing a personal statement, you uploaded one and it was incorrect to the application. January 11th is the drop dead deadline, meaning everything has to be in by that date. The required materials for these two programs are the, of course, application, which is in GradCast. Some of you may have applied via Apply Texas in years past, but we are now in GradCast, very user-friendly, very intuitive, easy to use. The application fee, at the end, you'll submit an application fee. I believe it's $90 for domestic students and $112 for international students. Additionally, there are 4 quadrants when you log into GradCast. One is going to be your personal biographical information. Your academic history section is another quadrant. That is where you will enter your colleges attended. And you'll enter every college that you've attended, regardless if it's a community college or a four-year college. However, you only have to upload a copy of your official transcript for the four-year colleges that you attended. The third quadrant in the application is going to be your experiences and achievements section. I get questions about what should I put in here? It's all in my resume. What you do in the experiences is you don't have to enter everything that you've put on your resume. Your resume is going to be looked at and reviewed numerous times by the admissions committee. But if there is a particular achievement or experience you want to highlight, put that in the experience and achievement section of the application. Catherine just clarified it's $89 for domestic applicants and $114 for international applicants. Thank you, Catherine. The other quadrant, the final quadrant of the application is program materials. So this is where you're actually going to add the Master of International Affairs program to your cart, or the Master of Public Service and Administration to your cart. So think of it as a shopping cart. You're adding the programs. Once you add the program that you're interested in, that is when you will be prompted to answer program specific questions, such as what track are you wanting to pursue in the program? What concentrations are you interested in? Additionally, that's where you will enter your recommender's contact information. So this is, again, we ask for 3 recommendations. We prefer to be from someone who can speak to your academic ability, maybe a professor or an advisor, but our admissions committee really looks at those faculty recommendations. And then one can be from maybe a boss or a supervisor at a place of employment. Maybe it's a leader in an organization that you've been a part of on campus. Either way, that 3rd recommendation can speak to your leadership, time management, character, things like that. If you've been out of college for a while, so let's say you've been in the workforce for 10 years, we understand you don't keep in contact with your professors. So in that instance, we'll accept your recommendations from supervisors or employers, those type of things. The other thing in the program materials quadrant that we'll ask for is your personal statement and international experience essay for the Master of International Affairs. So the personal statement, Catherine already hit on this. This is basically our way to get to know you on paper before, the interview process. The international experience essay, very similar to the personal statement for you, those of you applying to the Master of International Affairs, but there may be some overlap. But what we're really wanting to know on the international experience essay is, what is your exposure to international affairs? Have you studied international affairs? Have you traveled abroad, studied abroad? Do you have family abroad? Did you immigrate to the United States? We're just wanting to know what your international experience is, your baseline. The transcripts we've already talked about and recommendations we've already talked about. For those of you that are international applicants or from a citizen of a non-English speaking country, we do need proof of English proficiency, and that can be provided in a variety of ways. One is providing a GRE score, a verbal score of a 146 or above. We also have a TOEFL score of at least 80. Now the Bush School does prefer 100. IBT is the score, but 80 is the minimum. An IELTS score of 6.0. The Bush School prefer a 7. And like I said, the GRE verbal reasoning score of at least a 146. Again, there are a number of other ways that you can meet this proof of English proficiency. Just make sure to visit our website for that full list. And then for those of you that are applying to the Master of Public Service and Administration, GRE or GMAT scores are completely optional. It's up to you if you want to submit those. For the Master of International Affairs, GRE scores are only required for those that have below a 3.2 cumulative GPA. And that's the GPA as calculated by the institution awarding your degree, listed on your transcript. So if it's below a 3.2, you're required to take it. Otherwise, it's optional. It's up to you. For those of you that may be asking, should I go ahead and take the GRE? Should I take it? Would you recommend I take it? If you can take the GRE and you're a great test taker, you can afford the test and afford to study for it, you think you can do well, take it. If you score 300 or above, go ahead and submit your scores. That's only going to help your application. But if it's below that, then just tell me to remove it. We won't consider it. Otherwise, if you're a terrible test taker, then I wouldn't spend time on the money to take that test. So again, it's up to you. But MIA, you are required to take a GRE or a GMAT if your GPA is below a 3.2. The next program that we'll talk about is going to be, well, we'll talk about the admissions timeline. Sorry, I jumped ahead. So the admissions process and timeline for the International Affairs and Public Service and Administration, we do, as an admissions committee, come together at the end of January. It's late January. We come together after that final application deadline and review all completed applications. That means applications that have all of their materials in. If you're missing something, your application will not be considered. So just make sure you reach or meet that January 11th deadline. We'll notify applicants at the end of January if you're invited forward to the next round of the admissions process, which is interviews. We do conduct interviews through the month of February for those that either can't attend our interview conference weekend, which we strongly recommend for everyone to attend if they can, if you're invited. Catherine has these dates listed on this slide for this year. The interview conference weekend for the Public Service and Administration degree is February 17th through the 18th. And the Master of International Affairs is February 24th through the 25th. The interview conference weekend is a great opportunity for you to get to know more about our school, take a look at our facilities, meet one-on-one with instructors, meet with former students, current students, ask questions. We have student panels, we have organizations that are there. It is an excellent opportunity for you to get to know if the Bush School is the right place for you. If you can't attend, or maybe you're an international applicant, we do alternative interviews throughout the month of February. Once we have all of those interviews wrapped up, we do go ahead and review those applications at the end of February, early March, and also make scholarship decisions. So every student admitted to the International Affairs or the Public Service and Administration degrees do receive a scholarship, a merit-based scholarship. By mid-March, our cutoff date is March 15th. We try to have decisions sent before that, shortly before that, but March 15th is like our internal deadline to get the offer letter out to you if you're admitted, or to let you know if we're going to go ahead and decline admission at this time. We do create a wait list each year as well, but either way, that offer letter is going to tell you if you're admitted or not, and if admitted, what your scholarship offer is. Then you have a month. You have until April 15th to respond to us, to tell us if you accept or decline the offer. So we do ask, no matter what, please make sure you get that response to us, because it determines if we're going to go ahead and pull people from our wait list or turn to some other applicants to offer them admission. Our next program that we're going to talk about, so the application requirements for the Master of International Affairs and Public Health combined degree is a little bit different. Primarily, the final deadline for this particular program is going to be February 1st. So we're having to work with the School of Public Health, same with them having to work with us, trying to coordinate applications and app reviews and all of that good stuff. So February 1st, we tell applicants, make sure you have a SOFPAS application, which is the School of Public Health's application for their Master of Public Health, and pay the application fee to submit that application. That application is going to ask you to submit 3 recommendations, similar to what we just discussed, as well as ordering your transcripts. So SOFPAS requires you to order your transcripts, not upload. So you'll do that through the system, as well as your personal statement, resume, and your proof of English proficiency scores if you're an international applicant. GRE scores are not required for the School of Public Health for the Master of Public Health. So they're waiving that. However, for the MIA portion, we do require it if your GPA is below a 3.2. So immediately after you submit your SOFAS application, they're going to let you know you're still missing this for the School of Public Health. However, make sure you go ahead and submit an MIA supplemental application. That's an internal application, no fee. It's an online application that you submit directly to our office, the Bush School Admissions Office. So you will go into this internal application, and that is where you will upload an international experience essay for the MIA portion, your GRE or GMAT scores if that's required. And if you want to customize your resume and personal statement for the MIA program, you will have the opportunity to upload a more specific one to international affairs in the internal. So after that, the School of Public Health and the Bush School get together, make sure we have applications and applicants together, and we meet separately. So meet separately to decide who we're going to move forward to interview. So on the next slide, we have an admissions timeline for, well, I thought it was there. The MIA MPH is a very similar timeline to the MIA admissions timeline. It follows the exact same patterns, exact same timelines. Our other combined degree, our Master of Economics and Master of International Affairs, this is a very new program that we just started last month. So very new to this. We will eventually have an internal or a supplemental application, but the application is going to be very similar to that of the combined public health degree. So February 1st is the final deadline. December 15th is the priority funding. Required materials, very similar, except you do not submit a SOFAS application. You submit a GradCast application and then an internal supplemental MIA application. We'll have details on our website a little bit later once we have all of the logistics ironed out, but that will be up on our website shortly. So this is the admissions process and timeline for the MIA MPH, the MIA Econ degrees, and MPSA. Very similar. December 15th priority funding deadline. February 1st is the final hard deadline. Early February, we come back together as an admissions committee and decide who we're going to move forward to interviews. We do interviews in February, make note of the interview conference weekend. And then early March, we do our final app review and scholarship considerations. Mid-March, we send out the offer letters. April 15th is the response deadline. Master of International Policy, that is our one-year degree that we offer in our International Affairs Department. Very different application instructions, so we will just talk about this briefly. We do admit every semester for this program. So that means spring, summer, and fall. We have the application deadlines up here at the top. Every year, no matter what, for spring entry, it's October 15th the previous year. Summer is March 15th. Fall deadline is April 15th. It does require 4 years of professional experience in international affairs. That is a hard requirement. So there's no leniency on it. If you do not have the experience, you will be denied. So just make sure if you apply to this that you meet that requirement. There aren't any funding opportunities available for this degree. So it is the responsibility of the applicant or the student to fund their education in this program. But we do accept military, federal benefits, anything that you qualify on that side. The required materials for this international policy degree is the same. So a GradCast application and the application fee are the same. A resume, personal statement. We do not require an international experience essay. Transcripts, very similar, but we only require 2 recommendations, not 3. So 2 recommendations, and then GRE is completely optional. We do encourage it if your GPA is below a 3.0, or you just feel that your application is just not strong as you would like it to be, it doesn't reflect your current abilities, you can go ahead and submit a GRE to kind of strengthen that. Proof of English proficiency for international applicants. The MIP admissions process and timeline isn't as long as the International Affairs or the Public Service Administration. MIP, what happens is there are no interviews required for this degree, therefore we're able to get you a decision quicker. Completed applications are reviewed within 7 to 10 business days of you submitting that last material needed to complete your application. Admissions decisions are then sent 2 to 3 business days after your app is reviewed, and then you have 30 days to accept or decline that offer. The steps for applying, we talked about this a little bit ago on the GradCast application. When you log into GradCast or SOFAS for the MIA MPH, the GradCast and SOFAS applications are very similar. They're just different platforms, but they have the same type of requirements. You will start your application by filling in your personal information, your biographical information. Your academic history is your second quadrant, and then supporting info is your third quadrant. The next slide, it will talk about selecting your program or adding your MPSA or MIA, whatever degree program that you're looking for, to your cart. So we've listed here on this slide the programs that you should be looking for. Each colleges use different types of keywords or names for their degrees. So just make sure you look for the term that you're wanting to apply for, the degree, the program name, as well as if you're applying to the MIA MPH, if you're an international or a domestic applicant. You'll press the plus sign to add that program to your cart, and then it will ask you program specific questions or ask you to upload program specific documents specific to that program. Step 3, you fill out that program materials quadrant. So in GradCast, this is where you're going to tell us your tracks, your concentrations. You're going to upload your personal statement, international experience essay, your GRE or GMAT scores, if you decided to go ahead and submit those, or you're required to for the MIA. And then your proof of English proficiency scores. Official GRE or GMAT test scores or official proof of English proficiency scores are only due if you're admitted. So upon admission, that's when you would request the officials be sent to us. This is also where you will request your recommendations. So our recommendations are an electronic system. You will enter the email address and the name of 3 recommenders. You cannot submit your application without entering the 3 contacts. The system sends an email to your recommender and asks them if they would be willing to write your recommendation for you. They accept, log into the portal, upload their letter, answer a brief evaluation of the applicant. It's like 8 questions, very simple. And then they will submit, and you can see that all on your end. So even after you submit your application, you can log back in and look at your recommendations to see the status. If it says submitted, that means it's in and I have it. If it says requested, that means they haven't done anything. So they'll need to go in and submit that recommendation. You can also submit reminders to your recommenders via the portal. So just make sure and just keep in mind after submission of your application, make sure you keep track of those recommendations and follow up accordingly. The last part is submitting your application. So as Catherine had said earlier, it's $89 for domestic applicants, $114 for international applicants. There are a few application fee waiver opportunities for those of you that are McNair scholars. Texas A&M will pay your application fee for you, but you have to go through the Texas A&M admissions office, not the Bush School. For the Bush School, we only offer fee waivers for those that are a part of public service organizations such as AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, the Public Policy Institute of International Affairs, the Pickering, Rangel, and Payne Fellows. If you've applied for one of these fellowships, the Pickering, Rangel, or Payne, let us know that you've applied. Let us know your status. If you're selected or you were declined or you're on hold, let us know and we can go ahead and send you instructions for waiving that application fee. And then you submit and it comes over to us to process. There is a 5th step only for our combined degrees, and that's that supplemental application. So for MIA MPH, you're looking at a supplemental MIA application to submit the program specific information for the MIA. And then for MIA Econ, there is going to be an MIA supplemental application once we have a few other logistics worked out, and that will be posted on our website. So that's to be determined. Steps after admission. So after you have responded to our offer of admission, let's say you do accept our admission, that is when you will need to request your official transcripts from all 4 year colleges attended be sent immediately. The reason why is registration for fall opens up at the end of March, early April. So you have a quick turnaround between the March 15th time that we send you your offer and registration. Get your official transcripts and test scores in so you're eligible to register. You cannot register without them. The registration holds will go onto your account. And if you submit an official transcript, it'll be removed within a day. So just keep that in mind. And it does take like 7 to 10 business days for official transcripts to be processed. So just keep in mind, it is not an immediate turnaround time. It takes 1 to 2 weeks. Additionally, if you are currently in your bachelor's degree, let's say you graduate in May, you will need to submit an official transcript at the time that you're admitted and you've accepted, even if it's incomplete. Still submit your official transcript in order to register for classes. You will then need to submit a final official transcript once you graduate and your transcript has your degree awarded date. Once you submitted those, you're good to go. Again, no transcripts from community colleges are needed. But if you did go to a four-year college and transfer credits into the college that you obtained your bachelor's degree from, you will need to submit official transcripts from those colleges too. The other thing is submitting official proof of English proficiency test scores. So this is where if you're an international applicant or someone that's a citizen from a non-English speaking country, you do need to submit your official test scores using the codes listed here. You will not be able to register until officials are on file no matter what. There's no way to get around these two requirements. And now I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, and I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and let her talk to you a little bit more about the programs.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the program specific preparation. Sometimes people ask, are there certain prerequisites that we'd like to see? Not necessarily. There is some familiarity that might be helpful. So I've listed some of the things that if I've emailed you, you might have seen this. MPSA, just being a little bit familiar with American government. Economics, because you guys do quantitative methods 1 and 2, having a micro or macro class, maybe having a statistics or a research methods, and or even calculus, being able to use those numbers, understand what is being asked of you. We even will give information later for Khan Academy so people can brush up if it's been a while, but having familiarity is more important than necessarily going, I've taken 3 classes in this. And there's some that may not have it, and they're going to have to do a little bit more prep over the summer just to be ready. MIA, whether you're in the National Security and Diplomacy or the MIP degree, they're going to ask for more familiarity with international relations or world politics, diplomatic history if you're focused on that, American foreign policy, just understanding some of the agreements that we've signed in the past and where countries are located on a map. We actually ask our students to take a test when they get here during orientation that they're studying for several weeks leading up to it, just to give them some of this background. So when faculty talk about certain pacts and agreements, they have a reference point for that, especially if they weren't history majors or focused on this in undergrad. If you're coming in for IDEP, international development, coming back with some of that MPSA background, economics or statistics, because again, you're going to be doing quantitative methods 1 and 2. And so being a little more familiar with that is helpful. For those that want to do some prep over the summer, we give them the Khan Academy links and remind them, just go through and do some pre-algebra, probability, economics, just go through those classes. They're free of charge. It just is some of your time. You'll be more comfortable when you get to classes in the fall. And then for spreadsheets, because we use a lot of those as well, Microsoft does have some coursework that you can create your first Excel workbook. Even if you've done it a lot, sometimes just going back through there and going, I did not realize that functionality. So those are some of that past prerequisite that we ask you to be familiar with. As far as writing that personal statement, just remember, this is the one place where you're describing your backgrounds and your fit for the program in your words. If you get a chance to do more for that for the interview process, great. But this is your first impression. So take that time on the statement. Be sure that if there are multiple prompts, if it's a couple of sentences, that you break that part and answer each aspect of it. So outline your qualifications, the work, the volunteer, the travel, courses, readings, anything that you think provides you a leg up over someone else. Convey your passions. Why are you interested in this field? What inspired you for that? Was it someone in your family? Was it an activity, an event that happened to you? Something more, even people talk about TV shows that inspired them to learn more about something. Why now? What has kind of spurred you on and moved from undergrad to grad immediately, or maybe you took a life break and came back? And then explain your goals. Hopefully you've done some of the research on some of those sections I mentioned earlier, knowing which schools offer that trajectory for you. So why this program, this school? What speaks to you? Is it the faculty, some of the courses, the opportunity to travel? Talk something about that. And then importantly, make sure you list the right school, right? I've seen a number of statement of purpose where people will go, and I can't wait to attend the University of Texas at Austin. And you're going, well, I hope you applied there, because that's not who we are. So just read it over carefully, have someone else read this, watch for those run-on sentences, the errors, because when faculty are going through these, they don't want to see those common mistakes. It can be influential when it's especially a tight race between you and 3 others for 1 slot left. When it comes to letters of recommendation, 3 letters are typical. Faculty, at least to ours, typically like to read academic letters. Academic focus of someone that you had maybe in more than 1 class. Maybe it's an advisor if you need to pull that. We'd like to see at least 2 out of the 3 for that. If you can't, maybe you did some online classes earlier and you never made those connections, you can only really count on 1 academic who knows you to talk about something, then make sure your others are pulled from former employers, community mentors, student org advisors, your advisor for the classwork you're putting together, someone who knows something enough that they can write about it. And maybe you need to supply that recommender some support. Maybe that's giving them an updated resume, or just set a time with them to meet and say, I'd really like you to write a recommendation. Are you comfortable with that? Here's what my goals are. Here's the programs I'm applying to, and just provide them that support. So the better option is someone familiar with you on multiple levels. It's not going to help a lot to say, great, I work for the governor of Texas. He can write me a letter, and then he writes 1 paragraph that you did an internship for his office, but it doesn't say anything. So think through who those letters of rec are going to be and make sure that they're going to represent you well, or pick somebody else. Ashley, let me know if there's some questions on here. I'm seeing a lot of messages being dropped.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm answering them.
Okay, great. Yeah. If there is 1 or 2 that we need to address later, let me know and we'll read it out.
Okay.
All right. So as far as preparing for the GRE test, remember that we are optional now unless you're required for that MIA. So if you do have the time and motivation and you think you can do well in a test, study and take it. It's not going to hurt you, because we are giving you that option to have that test pulled. And it may not be an academic consideration for admission, but it may be a factor in how much money you're given. Because as you can imagine, faculty like numbers. And if they've got a strong 3.8 GPA, 4.0, and you couple that with a strong GRE, there's just more validation in that background, particularly if you're young and you don't have any life experience to play on. So don't immediately go, nope, GRE is not for me. I'm not taking it no matter what. If you're not a good test taker, don't. But if you think, let me see that maybe the $200 could land you thousands of dollars more in our scholarship aid. So it's not a done deal to ignore it, but it is up to you whether it plays to your strengths. So each test vendor has free practice tests. You can go in and see how you think you might do. There's books and software. There's just something to think about. If you're not happy with those scores, just remember you don't have to submit or upload them. And if you stated on the application that you were going to submit them, you have to let Ashley know that you're no longer, or it's going to be held. So you've just got to make sure that you move that from the file. And then admissions criteria, just remember these admissions committee faculty, and that does include a couple of staff that will go through, we're looking at your files and reading your statements, and we're evaluating this holistically. We're not going through a list and going, nope, you made below a 2.8, you're done. We won't even consider you. We'll consider everyone. There's just going to be some that faculty are going to be concerned with. And faculty don't do this in a cutthroat method just because they can. They're doing the consideration of not setting students up for failure. If they don't think you can do quantitative methods for the MPSA because you don't have any stats or economics background and you didn't take that GRE to show that you've got some quant ability, they may go, I don't see how this person can do this. There's nothing in their background that shows, and we're a quant heavy program. So maybe they deny you because they say, you know what, there's programs out there that aren't math heavy. That might be a better fit for you. So make sure that you are giving us everything that you think is positive between your statement, your letters of rec, taking your time on developing that resume, and all those can help you showcase your potential and your leadership qualities. They're looking for that fit for the public, nonprofit, private sectors. The faculty, when we're interviewing double of what that class we're admitting. So if we're looking for a class of 90, we're interviewing 180 people. And then from there, we're probably, I said interviewing, and then admitting about 130 of those. So we're going to go through there and see who those strongest applicants are. And then after we've hit around that 130 mark, we start making a very robust wait list. And I say robust, it could be anywhere between 10 to 30 people typically. And the MPSA is using a wait list just as the MIA has always done. That wait list is not ranked. We just put people on it, and then we will notify you if and when those places become available. And that's something Ashley and I work with every couple of weeks just to see how the class is filling out, and then finding out if people have already moved on to some other decision, or if they're waiting for us to give them something. So in case you're curious, what does the incoming class look like? We've covered this on other webinars. I've got the stats on the next page. Just remember, when we're giving scholarships and when we're making decisions, faculty value merit with experience. So it's not only the grades and the activities you've done and your involvement, but it's also, hopefully, maybe you have worked a year or two and come back. Not everyone does. 60% of our incoming class is 0 to 2 years of experience. But if you can offer that GRE to help you, then do it. And just remember, our enrollment, I've been using the number 90. It usually sits between 85 to 95. We're pushing to go to 100, and we're going to max out at that point. So within the next year or two, we're going to be looking for 100 students to have in each of the MPSA and MIA. The other combined degrees with public health and economics, the MIP, those are much smaller. You're talking now somewhere between 3 to 12 students per year. But you're sitting in on classes of about 16 people. Most of our classes max out at 20, sometimes 25. But you're working from both seasoned practitioners and academics who are experts, and you get a lot of choice in which classes you want to take. So what do those classes look like in terms of the cohort of your future classmates? So you can see the numbers here. Enrollment, both the MPSA and the MIA were sitting close to that 85. We had it 95, but we lost some students over the summer for changing of mind, financial situation, visas, what have you. The 6+ on MIP just indicates they still enroll for the spring and the summer. So we've had 6 so far who have committed. We'll be adding to that number later. Average GPA, you've got an idea. I did speak with someone yesterday about a lower GPA, somewhere around that 2.5 area. Could he be admitted in that range? It's harder. Definitely, I would say closer to around that 3.1, you're a little safer. But it is possible. Yes, we have taken a chance on a number of people who have made up for a lower GPA in any number of ways. So play to your strengths, submit some additional, what you've been working for, what your activities are. You'll notice that the average age is young, 24 to 23, unless it's the MIP, because they require 4 years of experience. So their average age is 30. Women typically is about half. Last year, both classes were more women than men. This year, we're just flipped. Still at the 48 to 42%. Underrepresented minorities, we've been fairly strong in this over the years, usually running between 20 to 42%. This year, we're at 33 and 35% for the two flagship programs. International numbers have been fluctuating. Still a lot of concern with getting visas. So they're a little bit lower than usual in both programs. And then non-residents, we do typically have about 40% to 50% non-residents. And this year we're much more Texas heavy. So that fluctuates. You can see the number of years of work experience. This isn't far off from last year, but last year they actually took people in with more experience because they could. Last year was our most competitive class. I say last year, the fall of 21 when people came in. We had a little bit more experience with that. But we're taking the students when we feel like they are mature, they're ready, they've prepped, they've studied what they're looking for, they've compared to school, maybe they have applied to multiple schools. We actually encourage you to maybe apply to multiple schools. You want to increase your ability to play for that more money. And if one school, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, you may not be able to look competitive to faculty as much as someone who has. So just keep that in mind. And then when it comes to financing your studies, this is just a generality because again, we will have a webinar where we will go in a lot more details of what grad finance looks like. But when you're financing your studies, always start with the free money, scholarships and fellowships. Most are merit-based. They don't have to be paid back. They typically will be put into your account and used for tuition. If it's left over, then you get to use that for living costs because that money comes back to you. And they generally go to the students that departments most desire. And, you know, again, that's a faculty evaluation process by that admissions committee. So one school may evaluate you and give you a top dollar, and another one just says, well, we had students that we valued in a different way, and they may only give you a lower end scholarship. So you know, I hate that people feel slighted by that, but that's just the nature of this competitive process. You never know who your competition, your future colleagues are. And there's a lot of highly impressive people who apply. Now, there is an ability in your second year, at least for us, for what are called assistantships, where you're working for either faculty. So require working 10 to 20 hours per week in teaching, or check with your department if that's something that you can get in your first year coming in. Loans do account for a lot of the aid that students are taking out to pay. But apply for FAFSA, work with your institution's financial aid office. And then a lot of our students are also looking for part-time work where they are taking between 10 to 15 hours a week, maybe up to 20, and kind of keeping that money rolling in for their fun stuff or just eating, right? Because you don't have to keep taking out loans to pay for everything that you do. So we do have jobs for Aggies where students can look for those jobs. Specifically for the MPSA and MIA, 100% of our incoming full-time students receive those scholarships. They range between $1,000 and $29,000 per year. About 2/3 of them receive our average of just $3,000 to $5,000 per year. Those graduate assistantships that we offer are only an option in year 2. If you get it, you give up your first year scholarship. It just replaces it. So you can't double dip with the same funding from the Bush School. You can, however, have a GA position outside of the Bush School and keep our scholarship. So that doesn't affect our funding. Internship scholarships are also available if you get one that's unpaid between your first and second year. So overall, we cost about $13,500 at in-state rates. If you are an out-of-state student, you're going to receive a non-resident waiver that gets you to that in-state rate. So you're never going to really see that $26,000 plus. You're going to be paying that that $13,500. Cost of living is about $21,000. And for MIP students, just remember there is no waiver. We don't provide scholarships, so you're going to see the Texas rate or the non-resident rate. So remember, comparing your option, is the program or school reputable? And are they willing to work with you? Do they answer your questions? Do they email you? Review the campus location and facilities. Are they inclusive? Do they allow for debate and discussion? Is this a comfortable place for you for this? Are you able to develop faculty professional relationships? Are there opportunities for development, internships, travel, study abroad, speakers and conferences, capstones, research opportunities? Find out what's important to you and make sure that school provides it. How is employment assistance and alumni networking at that school? Do compare the tuition and fees. Sometimes you'll get a great scholarship, but that scholarship is only a drop in the bucket. If it's a private school in particular, they can run, 20 to 30,000 per semester, and we're less than that per year. So pay attention to those kinds of things. If you get no aid, are you willing to incur that debt for the program? And can you see yourself growing in your 2 years and improving your current self? If that's the case, then you're on the right track. Look for those, see what kind of funding they're offering, and then just look at all the other factors that matter to you. And for that, it could be location. So here are our contact information. I did list both my email with Bush School Admissions at tamu.edu. But if you're applying and you've got questions for Ashley, it's Bush School Applications at TAMU. There's our phone number, pick it up and call us. If you are looking for the Executive Master of Public Service or the certificate, Bush School Online at tamu.edu is the best way. And if you're looking at the DC MIP and NSI, theirs is very similar to how we work in timeline and deadlines, but you can reach them at Bush School DC at TMU, and there's their phone number. So just remind you, there are some upcoming webinars in career services and financial aid. We've also got Zoom Q&A hours you can drop in with your questions. Just know it's not a private event. It's people can hear you if they drop in. And then we've got other fairs and open houses. We've got one per month. So I'm going to stop talking. We've got a couple of minutes. Ashley, were there any questions that you'd like to verbally cover that might be pertinent to other people if they weren't able to read it?
I think the main thing that I would like to point out is if you have a strong GPA, meaning, okay, so we have our average GPA and average GRE scores listed on our website. You're able to check those out. But if you have an average GPA or above, and you're wondering if you want to take the GRE or should take the GRE, would it help you? Would it hurt you? My advice to you is if you have a strong GPA and you can score somewhere at a 300 or above, or even better around our average GRE or GMAT score, that's only going to help strengthen your application. If you have the time, you're a great test taker and have the time to study for it, then go ahead and take it and submit those scores. If not, you don't have to if you have that GPA.
Thank you. Yeah, another one.
Yes. So the other one is just as far as, just left it. I think that's it. I think that's, yeah, okay. I think that's it.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is stop the webinar in just a moment, but if anyone wants to stay on and ask questions of Ashley and myself, you're welcome to do that. Well, at that point, you can unmute and undo your video if you would like, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, tell you guys thank you so much for attending today. I hope there was a lot of helpful information, but please, if you don't know and you're questioning, just call us or drop us an email. We are happy to alleviate that worry because we know you don't want to screw up, and we get that, and we're here to help. So drop us a line when we can help, and thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I hope to see you at a future webinar.